Hello and welcome to Dairy Pod. I'm Kristen Davis from Dairy Australia. In this episode, Tasmanian farmer Joey Hammond speaks with Dairy Australia's Agribusiness program lead, Greg Duncan, reflecting on what he has learnt 12 months on from setting up a new farm with wife Tamara. Joey shares how they planned for, managed and monitored their business performance. He also speaks about how they manage risk and some of the influencing factors that made this successful, networking with like-minded farmers and having a good relationship with their accountant and bank manager.
So coming up on Dairy Pod is Joey Hammond from Flowery Gully in central northern Tasmania. Joey, welcome to Dairy Pod, and let's kick off with just a little bit of background about yourself and Tamara. You're a family business. Tell us a bit about the farm.
G'day, Greg. Always good to catch up and have a chat. Well, I guess, our farm is a new conversion farm. This is our first season, so we've nearly completed a full season. So we started with a greenfield site, started building around this time last year. So we're milking 460 cows this year. Pasture-based, spring calving herd, feeding about a tonne of grain per cow and doing about 400 solids per cow this year.
Good stuff. Now, you're 12 months in. It's been a challenging yet rewarding 12 months, right? But before we get to that, just tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got to this point in your dairy career.
I grew up on a dairy farm, a family farm. I'd been in the family a long time, since 1842, I think. So grew up on the family farm, always wanted to be the farmer, so nothing else really interested me. It was a bit of a weird sort of setup, being a family farm, but it was my uncle that owned the land. My mum didn't own any of the land, owned some of the business, the operating entity. So I knew from a young age that I wasn't going to ever get any of that farm, which is fine. Unfortunately, I had my uncle who owned that land. He sort of sat me down from a young age, probably around 17, 18 years of age, and made that clear that I wasn't going to get that land, like not in a bad way, but just to set me on a path for success, I guess. And fortunately, he pushed me down the real estate route, which as a 17, 18-year-old, I had no idea about real estate, but he just said, well, you're not really going to get any of this land. Why don't you start buying real estate to sort of set yourself up, if you want to buy a farm in the future. So I think not long after my 18th birthday, I bought my first house and rented it out. And, then he said, well, now go get another one.
Yeah.
So, I was a saver. So I just saved up another deposit and went and got another one. And, so that sort of kept happening. And I'd get one and he'd say, right, go get another one. So I'd just start saving again. And if it wasn't for that prompting, I wouldn't be where I am today. So very thankful, that I had no idea what I was doing, but had some good guidance early on. So that I've made that sound like a very easy and simple, short process, but that was a 10, 12 year sort of process probably. And then I assumed I would be on that farm for the rest of my life.
Oh, sure. Fair enough.
So got the opportunity to buy out Mum's share of the operating business. So Tamara and I bought that. And I'm not sure how long we stayed in that. It was probably 7 or 8 years, I guess. And then both parties sort of decided it might be time to part ways, and So then that's when we decided to sell our houses and buy a neighbour at Flowery Gully.
Gotcha. Which was you said it was a greenfield site, right? So never been dairied on before.
Never been dairied on before. So I suppose an extension of that story, we did buy a runoff block there, and again, that was something that my uncle sort of encouraged and helped. I again wouldn't have been able to buy that property without him. Like, he didn't put any money in, but he, was a guarantee for us. That got leased back into the operating business to give us income to show the bank that, we could pay.
Gotcha.
Our interest and repayments. So again, without him, wouldn't be where we are today. We already had that 110 hectare block that we were running young stock on. And then, the opportunity came up to purchase the neighbour, which then gave us scale to build the dairy.
Gotcha. So I guess clearly it just didn't happen overnight, right? Like you'd come up with a goal about what future prospects and limitations were within the family structure, and then set out to build your own enterprise. So roughly how long from that first idea that, you needed to move on to greener pastures, so to speak, until you put your first cow through the dairy? What was that time frame like?
That was it was about 2 years. Yeah, maybe a little bit more than 2 years. I have the first conversations about maybe it's time, and then by the time we actually made that decision, it was 2 years. Yeah.
So let's just drill into that a little more. So you're running a large farm at Lagana, and then you're also commissioning a greenfield site, right? So you guys are pretty busy.
It was pretty stressful. It was a lot. We had things, happen that we weren't expecting. It was just a lot harder than what we'd anticipated, mainly due to hold-ups and delays. Anyone that's built anything in the last 2 years knows, COVID timelines haven't been great. So started later than we had anticipated, had hold-ups, and had no dairy, and we'd started calving. So that wasn't ideal.
Right, yeah. Add a bit of pressure.
Yeah, you could say that.
So tell me a bit about how you, I guess, set those goals, or how you came up with those plans. Do you travel off farm? Do you have wider networks? What sort of research do you put in, and how does the process work between yourself and Tamara?
From a young age, as soon as I left school, I tried to go to everything I could go to. So every field day, every discussion group that I could manage to get to, any course that I could do, any trip that I could go on. I just took advantage of anything I could go to. And, the dairy industry is really good for that. Like, there's just so many things you can go to and so many opportunities.
100%, mate. And I think that's where we met, right? Was on a Young Dairy Network study tour of New Zealand.
Yes.
Way back when.
2017.
Yeah. So, again, that's you out and about, learning from other farmers, right? What excites you about those sorts of trips and study tours, mate? What do you get out of it? What are you looking for?
Well, I mean, I've been on a couple, probably 3 dairy trips to New Zealand, and what you tend to find, if people are going to put some money in and go on these trips, generally they're people that are positive and want to get somewhere, and so just being on a bus with those type of people for a start, and the conversations you have, and you get spurred on, and you can't wait to get home and get stuck in. And New Zealand in general, the dairy community is pretty up and about and positive. And they tend to be the leaders in the dairy industry.
Yeah.
So just learned so much on those trips, and and friendships as well, like yourself and some others that I still keep in contact and ring for advice. And so I think they're great.
So tell me a bit about your wider networks. Who else do you interact with to get advice? And is that formal? Is it informal? Things like your accountant, your financier, maybe other farmers. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so probably most of our sort of dairy network or mentors or whatever you want to call them, I mean, they've come from these trips, like the New Zealand trip that I went on with you. Got to know someone on that trip, not very well, but happened to bump into them back in Tassie, and her and her husband are very successful farmers here in Tassie, a little bit older than us, but we've become really, really good friends with them, and they've just been massive for us, for advice, for a sounding board, for encouragement. So they've been awesome for us, and they've done a lot of conversions themselves.
Yep.
So the advice we got from them, it was just so awesome, and you probably couldn't buy that advice, to be honest.
So the scale of 1 to 10, how much of an impact do you reckon they've had on where you guys are at now?
Oh man, massive impact. They've been so reassuring for us, and we're going into this unknown, but they've been there, they've done it before. They're also pretty honest, and telling us things to avoid, or maybe that's not the right option. But I think they've just given us some really good confidence in what we're doing, and we've made the right decisions, and things to look out for. So I mean, they've been massive for us.
Yeah, good stuff. So you guys are a busy family business. Tell me, what's the dynamic between yourself and Tamara? Like, do you have clearly defined roles, or do you, setting goals, monitoring and managing business performance? Who does what? How does that work?
I would say we have defined roles. So she's not from a farming background, and probably didn't have a lot of involvement early on. But the further we've gone, the more interest she's shown, and where we are now, like I couldn't do what I do without her. Her strengths fit my weaknesses really well. She's very organised. She's got a really good work ethic. She's really good with the finances and doing the books. So she does all the books. So she takes that pressure off me. The last couple of years, she started doing the calf rearing, and she really loves that. And it takes a pretty special person to do calves well, and her and one of our employees, they do it really well, and they work well together. So they've taken that responsibility off me, and they've sort of run with it, and that's their little project now. And they do a really, really good job.
So let's dig in a little bit deeper to the way you guys monitor business performance. Is there a formalised process, or do you do what sorts of things do you do on a regular basis? What sort of interaction do you have with your accountant or financier? How does that sort of stuff work?
I guess in the past, so the Dairy Monitor program, we did that for, I would say, at least 10 years. We did that consistently. And then obviously we've moved farm, so we haven't done that yet, but I'm assuming I'll get a call in the next few weeks to participate in that again. But so we haven't done a lot of that yet with the new farm.
And only 12 months in, right?
It's something we probably could have done a better job at, but we've had a lot going on this year, and not a great start with having no dairy, and we sort of felt like we didn't even get a breath till Christmas.
Yeah.
So we haven't sort of sat back and done a lot of analysis yet, but yeah, that will definitely come in the next month or so with the Dairy Monitor program.
And as you, I guess, set about challenging gears to move from the farm at Lagana to the greenfield site, obviously it's required a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, managing a lot of risks, right? You mentioned, things went wrong at times beyond what you'd initially allowed. How did you manage that process? Was it sort of formalised, or is it a sort of a general discussion with Tamara about how we're looking from a cash flow point of view, or discussion with your financier about, we thought we'd be here, but we're actually ended up over here? What?
Yeah, it's a bit of all of those things, really. Like, definitely have had more contact with our accountant than we ever had before. Same with our bank manager. A lot of ongoing discussions with both of them, and to their credit, they've both been really good. So I guess to backtrack a little bit, so we'd obviously set a budget for the build, and then we'd set our annual budget, which is a little bit tricky to do when you've got no history. So we took some of the stuff from Lagana out of the benchmarking program, so we could have a pretty good idea of where we thought we'd sit budget-wise. But I guess, we probably spent more money on capital that wasn't in the budget, that we didn't borrow for. So the dairy build itself was pretty bang on budget-wise, but there was other bits and pieces that sort of weren't included in that. So that we end up spending a lot more money on capital that end up coming out of cash flow.
Gotcha.
So it's a positive that it's been paid for now, but now there's a little bit of pain cash flow wise.
A longer term gain,
So it's not nice, but would we do it again? Maybe there was some things that we didn't need to do just yet, but at the time when you've got contractors in and you just say, just do it.
Yeah. The bulldozers are here, might as well.
Yeah, things like that. So but a lot of those things that you spend on capital, so they've come out of cash, but you get the benefit on your balance sheet. So you've got some pain cash flow wise, but you've actually increased your equity. So, you've got to keep that in mind when you look at the bank balance and think, it's a lot tighter than what we might have anticipated, but, we've grown equity.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Gotcha. So you've obviously been through this, transition to a greenfield site. That experience must be pretty invaluable, right? And I guess in reflection, what sort of advice might you give your slightly younger self, mate, were you to do it all over again? What have you learned?
What have I learned? Things take longer than you think. You can do a lot of planning, but if your builders get held up on the job before yours, there's not a heap you can do about that. And So I guess my advice would be, give yourself a longer lead in time. That's probably, if we had have had that, 80% of our stress might have disappeared. But definitely, yeah. So planning, give yourself a long lead in. Really good relationship with your bank is, a must. Well, you can't do it without them, unfortunately, unless you've got a lot of cash.
When you say that, what does keeping a really good relationship with your bank look and feel like for you guys, mate?
I guess it's just being in constant conversations with them and, getting them to understand, where we want to be, not just this year, but in 5, 10, 15 years, taking a long-term view and making sure, you've got a bank that backs you to get there and a bank that's excited to see where you want to get and help you get there. So, they said right from the start when we proposed this plan, they said we want to back you. So, that's nice to have as well. It gives you confidence that, maybe we are on the right track here. If they're willing to back us, maybe we're onto something. Obviously, you've got to have the equity to do it. But, having them positive is, a nice feeling.
Good stuff, mate. So just sort of looking towards the future, right, which is, I guess, kind of easily said than done when you're 12 months into a new site. But what are your areas of focus, for the next 12 months and then maybe a little bit more medium to longer term, mate? What are the things that you want to improve around the farm now that you've got it operational?
So I guess the next 12 months, I guess, is a bit of consolidation for us, I guess. There's lots of little things to improve. I mean, we've spent the money on capital now, so there's no more capital that needs to be done next year. So now we just want to focus on getting the 10% improvement in pasture. Now it's been in for a year, and little things like that. So no major changes for next year, just a little bit of tinkering, just some fine tuning, I guess. Now that we're 12 months in, we know what the farm can do, what it can't do, because all of that was a little bit unknown when you come in. How is it going to handle 500 cows rather than heifers, and so just a lot of tinkering and just fine tuning the system, really.
You clear about measuring and monitoring business performance to achieve your KPIs. How often do you look at this? Do you check in on things? Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, not enough this year, to be honest. And I know I'm meant to be on here telling everyone how to run their businesses really well, and but to be honest, we haven't done enough of that this year, mainly because it's just been so hectic, and we just really only feel like we're just catching up now.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I mean, ideally, we'd want to be doing this a lot more, and we did have a plan of Tamara and I, having a quick meeting every Wednesday morning, but that just hasn't happened. Again, you can plan all these things, but life gets in the way, but it's something we definitely need to make more of a priority going forward.
So, Joey, you've been obviously around the industry for a few years. I know you've been a big supporter of a variety of initiatives at Dairy Australia and Dairy Tas, including the Young Dairy Network. What is it that you see valuable about the Young Dairy Network and young farmers connecting with each other?
Well, again, I mean, that's where I learnt everything I know, really, the young farmer dairy network stuff. And again, meeting people that are like-minded and want to get somewhere and that are positive and they're always wanting to help each other. And so, I mean, that's the biggest thing I've got out of, especially the Young Dairy Network. I've met some really, really good people that I still ring for advice, to this day, and run ideas past. And so I mean, it's just been invaluable, the Young Dairy Network in particular for me. Yeah.
Good stuff, mate. So any young farmers or aspiring young farmers that are listening to this, what's Joey's top tips?
My top tips would they're pretty simple. I would just say do something. Just don't stay stagnant. Just do something. Whatever's in your realm of control, pull that lever, whatever that sort of looks like. If you're just starting out, maybe that's saving, or if you're a little bit further on, start investing in something. It doesn't have to be property. It can be anything. It can be stock. It can be livestock. If you've got the opportunity to rear calves. Just do something. I got some advice when I was younger, and it was stack assets and live like you're broke.
Right, tell me that.
That's sort of the path I went down, but probably suited my personality anyway to go that way. But I guess in general, just to be positive.
Yep.
Positive people, attract other people, and you'll find that opportunities come your way, maybe if you weren't expecting them. So successful people are always looking for young, positive people. And I think if you've got that attitude, you'll find that you'll be, bombarded with opportunities, if you've got the right attitude.
So we've talked about this before, I think, but being positive but not being full of yourself, right? So I guess being genuine and maybe just a touch vulnerable as well. And I guess it might surprise you how others will connect with that and actually want to help a bit too, right? Has that worked?
Yeah, and if we go back to our mentors or our good friends now, we had that example with them. Very successful people, but also willing to share, their struggles and, the things they came up against and things that didn't go well. And, that's really refreshing to hear. You see these really successful farmers and you just assume everything went really well and, they just do everything perfectly. And
success has been a straight line for them up, right?
Yeah, and that's just not the case. And I don't think that's the case for anyone, to be honest. And, sometimes, you go through your business life and you start doubting, your ability and, am I actually any good at this? Or, so to have successful people around you that say, no, we've been where you are and, things are hard sometimes. And so, that's refreshing to have, in your ear. So, we want to do the same. We want to do that with other people. And, I suppose part of that is why I'm on this podcast today, I guess. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a perfect farmer and I've got all the answers for everyone, but maybe to share some of our story and some of the hard things we've had to go through this year. And, maybe that's, going to help someone along the way, possibly. So I guess that's where we're at the moment.
Looking towards the future, where do Tamara and yourself see things? Do you have a goal for the future? What's that look like?
Yeah, well, we really want to grow still. So I mean, there's some challenges there around, where we sit equity-wise and, can't really borrow any more money at the moment. So at the moment, we're just like, well, what are our opportunities? How can we grow without borrowing money? So what does that look like? Leasing is an option. So we've actually just signed a deal on a lease purchase on a property around the road. So, works really well for us. Don't have to borrow the money. The owners, weren't desperate to sell, but needed to get off the farm. So again, just being prepared to be looking for options and, asking questions,
Being inquisitive.
That was really just a phone call and say, hey guys, what do you think about this? We can't buy it at the moment. Again, being honest and open, say, look, we'd love that property, but we just can't do it right now. What do you think? Are you open to some options? And then I guess the other opportunity we've got is, growth in stock numbers. So that's a lever we can pull as well now. And then really it's just all about growing equity. So killing as much debt as we possibly can, as quick as we can, to make sure we're in a position if an opportunity comes up, we can take it.
Joey, yourself and Tamara have had no shortage of challenges over the last couple of years, and especially in the last 12 months. Tell us a bit about some of those obstacles and your philosophies about how you work through them.
We've had a few obstacles this year, which have been, varying rates of stress for each of those. But the main one was, starting to calve and have no dairy.
Minor issue.
Yeah. So literally just trucking cows each day as they calve to someone else to milk, which, is not ideal. It's not ideal for the cow. It's not ideal for cell count. Trucking freshly calved cows and then trucking them back 3 weeks later. But in saying that, we were fortunate enough to have someone, to put their hand up and say, look, I know you've got no dairy, well, just send them to me. I'll milk them for you. So to have someone to offer to do that, that was a lot of weight lifted off our shoulders because we just didn't know what we were going to do. Another one of our ones that we probably weren't expecting was so we're having some quality issues with the new dairy. Like you build a new dairy and you think, oh, brand new dairy, there's no issues there.
Peak performance, right?
Yeah, and then started getting some thermo issues and just couldn't figure it out. Pulling everything apart, changing things.
Rubbers, yeah.
Checking our wash system. And finally, narrowed it down to our water source.
Right.
And then the water that we've got is coming from a creek, and you look at it and it's just the clearest water you'd ever dream of. And how could that possibly be the issue? And so anyway, got that tested, and it was not good.
Oh wow, that was the root of the problem.
Yeah, and so we instantly changed to town water, getting town water trucked in twice a week, and literally overnight the quality issues disappeared.
Yeah, wow.
So again, that's some advice for people if you're going to build a new dairy. Like, test your water before you build the dairy so you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But that definitely wasn't one we were sort of anticipating.
Well, and especially if it appeared to be some of the cleanest water that you could have come across, right?
Yeah. Maybe that I should have done that in the first place, but I'd never built a dairy before, and it was probably the last thing on my priority list was to get the water tested. So good little tip for people out there. And then obviously the other obstacles we sort of touched on is whether we should have spent as much money on on capital straight away, or spread that out. And then the other one, Greg, is probably I don't know if it's mental health or whether it's just general health, but we had a lot going on and doing a lot of work and trying to do as much ourselves as we could, and trying to balance that with 3 kids and their sport, and it was a lot, and I didn't handle it real well at times. I could just feel like there was just bubbling under the surface, for probably 2 or 3 months, and someone sort of described it as you've usually got about 10 or 20% in the tank, when things go wrong, that can absorb that issue. But I just felt like I was running on 99%, and any little thing that went wrong, like I was just losing it. Fortunately, I knew that, and I'd go into every milking and say, look, just calm down, like it's not that bad.
Yep.
But when you're so tired and exhausted, and little things that don't usually annoy you seem like the worst thing that could possibly happen, and and then people have got to be around you, like that's not ideal. And luckily we've got really good staff, and that's probably something I haven't touched on, Greg. Of all the things that could have stressed us out this year, staff has not been one. Like, our staff have been awesome. I don't have to think about them. Well, that sounds really bad, but they just get in and just do their job.
Reliable. They don't cause us any stress at all. So that's really good, and that's probably another tip for people as well, is to good staff are hard to find, and we've been really fortunate to have 2 full-timers that are really, really good. So I guess just all dairy farmers deal with it, especially through calving, but being tired and exhausted, but just to be aware of it, and make sure you've got time to go for a walk or go for a run or whatever you do, Do something for yourself.
Yeah, just to, clear the head and get yourself back in a better frame of mind, and so the people that are working with you don't have to put up with grumpy boss. And but again, in saying that, we wouldn't have been able to get through this year, A, without really good staff, and B, without family and friends.
So, Joey, we've talked a bit about things going wrong, in the lead up to the conversion and the tough season and interest rates and now milk price. It must batter your self-confidence a bit from time to time. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, it does. It definitely makes you question your ability, and that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Am I cut out for this? Am I only good at this? And there's a saying from a guy. He said, "You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are." And
love it.
We have sort of sat back recently, and probably more at Tamara's prompting, and maybe feel I'm not as good as I can be, and her advice is just sit back and look what we've actually done here. Just appreciate what we've accomplished, and we wouldn't have been able to do it if we weren't good at what we do. Banks wouldn't have backed us. Mentors wouldn't have signed off on our plan, so to speak. So, sometimes you do just have to sit back and and appreciate what you have achieved, and and then that gives you confidence to say, well, yeah, maybe I am okay at this gig. So, yeah, just sit back and reflect sometimes, I think, is a good key.
Yeah, that's a great takeout, mate. And hard to do, right, when you're stuck in that zone of everything's got to be done right now or yesterday, right? That sort of real busy period. So yeah, just to be self-aware that slow down, take a deep breath, take it all in.
Yeah, well, I think again, that's probably where our relationship works really well. I'm probably a bit of a dreamer and I get carried away with trying to grow too fast. I'll come to Tamara with all these harebrained schemes that I want to do, and not saying she's a wet blanket at all. Don't get me wrong, but she would just ask simple questions, and be like, okay, well, how? How is a good one to start with. Like, how are you going to do that?
Good one.
So yeah, she sort of grounds me a bit and makes me actually sort of come up with a plan, I guess, of how are we going to achieve this.
So Joey, we see yourself and Tamara out and about a lot at Dairy Australia and Dairy Tas programs. Tell us a bit about some of your favourites or programs that you think have been really beneficial to you.
Well, I think there's been so many, like it's hard to actually remember them all, but some of the business analysis ones that I touched on earlier, they were really good, especially probably for Tamara coming from the non-farming background to, there's so many acronyms and things to get your head around. So some of them are really good for us to do together. By far the best one we've done is our Farm Our Plan. So we did that together. And I mean, we did it when we were still in the old business, but had an eye on, the new business. That was a little bit conflicted, but, we've been able to tick most of the things off that we set on our plan on a page. So that's nice to reflect on as well and be able to tick a lot of those things off.
Tell us about your vision, Joey.
Yeah, so our vision was to operate a simple, efficient and profitable dairy business that we can duplicate and can reliably build wealth and allow us to have good work-life balance and give others opportunities to grow as well.
Wow. That's quite powerful, right?
Yeah, so I think the key one there is to, we want things to be simple. We don't want complications. We want to be able to set our business up with good pillars in place, and everyone knows what they are, and we can all sort of work together to hit those targets, I guess.
Yeah, beautiful. And through that program, you identified, I guess, some focus areas, didn't you, to work on in the future, and then some goals and actions underneath each of those to help you work towards your vision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, magic. And how are you going knocking those down?
Yeah, well, like I said before, we have ticked a lot of these off. So a lot of them were around, building the new dairy and getting the infrastructure in. And so, they have been ticked off now. And, some of the people side of stuff of the equation was, we want really good staff and to treat them well and give them opportunities to grow and to learn as well. So, our general policy is if they want to go to a course or a field day, they go. I had that opportunity when I was young, and we want them to be able to do that as well. And they've got different interests, but we want them to learn and to grow, and that only adds to our business as well.
Their success is your success, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Joey, it's been absolutely fantastic listening to yours and Tamara's story from the early days on the farm at Lagana to where you are now at Larry Gully. And we really look forward to keeping tabs on you guys over the years ahead to see how that grows and evolves and how you guys navigate the challenges. So just a massive thanks from Dairy Pod for sharing your journey.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Hopefully somebody can get something out of our story. Hopefully it can be a help, and appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic, mate. Have a good one.
For support with your farm business management needs, contact your regional office today or visit dairyaustralia.com.au/farm business. We have also placed this and other related links in the episode notes. We hope that you have enjoyed this Dairy Pod. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, you can get in contact with us by emailing dairypod@dairyaustralia.com.au. Thank you for listening.